Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Tinnitist TV. Today I am talking to Tom Savage and David Barbe. Tom is the singer-guitarist at the helm of Canadian rock band Dead Root Revival. David is the veteran American musician and producer who has worked with everyone from Bob Mould to R.E.M. to drive-by truckers. Together, they could be the members of an awesome duo called Savage Barbe, or Barbe Savage, depending on who wants top billing, but they aren't. In truth, Barbe produced Dead Root Revival's most recent album, The Controller's Exam, a rollicking, earthy set of jammy, Southern-style rock reminiscent of the Allman Brothers. How did they get together? What was it like putting these songs down on tape? Whose gear fell over in the middle of a take that still made it onto the album? All these questions and more were answered when the pair zoomed in from their respective home bases in Ontario and Georgia. Hey, I even managed to sneak in a question about the Truckers' brand new reissue of Southern Rock Opera. Enjoy. All right, well let's start at the obvious place. We're here to talk about Dead Root Revival's album, The
Yep.
Controller's Exam. Um, how did you guys meet each other? How did how did this all come about that you were working together?
Well, it, I think like the for me, the seed was planted about 15 years ago when I was touring with it's Tom Savage Trio, kind of a rock country, alt country sort of outfit, and we would draw comparisons to drive-by truckers through the press at that time, so it piqued my interest. And we were on tour, killing time. I picked up the Dirty South CD in Calgary, and we wore that CD out for the rest of that tour. And I just sort of filed that away because I really liked the production quality of that album and the other albums I later listened to. I was like, David Barbe, I'd like to work with him someday. And after that point, I veered off into doing a bunch of acoustic, folky kind of stuff, and it it wasn't until Dead Root Revival became a thing. It was like we need someone who can put together a good rock and roll sound, and so I emailed David.
Well, now, David, you strike me as a man who's probably not wanting for jobs. I suspect you're very busy with a lot of irons in the fire and a lot of plates spinning simultaneously. What made you say yes to this project? I'm guessing you don't say yes to everything that comes your way.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, I started where I always start, just to listen to music and find out, do I relate to this music? Do I like the music? And it's like I did like Tom's music when I listened to it. And then we had this phone conversation one night, and then we just had a super relatable talk. And it's like, I'm not hurting for work. If I had a clone, we'd both work. But I liked the music, and we had a great conversation. And what really resonated with me is that these guys are working musicians, like they gig all the time. And that is my background. My parents were both like touring big band musicians in the 50s. And so, like,
Right.
people that make cool music that really are putting the work in and we vibe out, it's like, yeah, that checks all the boxes for me. So they came down here and we made this record in kind of rapid fashion.
I wanted to ask about that. How rapid was it?
When that
Three and a
maybe
half days, was it?
3.5 days.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty rapid. And if I read the press stuff right, you did most of it analog.
Yeah, well,
All of it.
yeah, all
All
Because
of it.
work fast, that's the only way to do it. Because
How
other
so? Yeah.
because a computer, very idea that a computer makes people work faster is backwards. A computer opens a Pandora's box of options,
Right.
and there's certain tasks you can do. You can do each individual task faster with the computer. However, on a tape machine, you run out of tracks and you run out of tape. and you have to be able to play, and you have to be able to like listen and go, okay, I can punch this in, but like you start playing and we're just going to get this little bit here. And it's very much like destructive editing, and you're very much in the moment. Um, and so the tape, because it's like, hey, I might have slightly missed a note. If you're working on a computer, rather, and somebody says, well, I might slightly have missed a note here. It's like, oh, okay, well, we can do 5,000 more takes of the guitar until every note is perfect and we've completely stripped all humanity out of the music. So
Hmm.
it's my belief that if the people can play, if you've got good songs and you can play, and your engineer knows what he's doing, it's faster on the tape machine. Because you come in and listen and it's like, yeah, sounds good. The other thing is like the tape machine just fattens everything up a bit. So when you come back in and hear it in the control room, it sounds like the records that we like grew up loving. I appreciate that it's a shrinking community of people that work on tape still. But if somebody can play and they want to make a record fast, that's the way to do it, in my opinion.
And Tom, so what was the experience like from your end in terms of going in there and setting up your gear and okay, go?
Well, I mean, that's how the more records I've done over the years, I just get closer and closer to that. But without the digital element, it was definitely perfect for this band because we're a live band, and we wanted to really get as close as we could to capturing that energy, and the the lack of options helped us do that. The pressure
Mhm.
of the tape, it could, because we had a budget. We're not going to do, oh, let's just let the tape run and
Right.
let's go. But so it did get the heart rate going a bit more. Like it felt more like closer to a live performance. And I was jumping around in there and like just like I would do at a live show. And yeah. But another great thing about the experience of going to Athens was uh, just getting away from our everyday lives and focusing for that week on tracking the record. Uh, it was amazing just to really focus on that. And I mean, it ended up being way more efficient than I thought it would be. And I we weren't expecting to come away with a double album either, but it was all killer, no filler.
Perfect. So David, in a situation like this, what do you feel your job is as a producer? Just to capture it, or is there more in there?
To listen and to, if I feel like I have something to say that can make it better, say it. It's I'm honest about my opinions. Um, and but it's like when somebody's on a time and budget constraint, we talk in advance about this is how we need to proceed to get this done. We got to be realistic about what we're doing here. Um, and it's you're not making Sergeant Pepper in 3.5 days. I'm not saying you can't make something great in 3.5 days. You can, and I feel like we did.
Right.
You make a Howlin' Wolf album in an afternoon, but
Right.
it can't be a situation of, oh, we want to put 8 overdubs on everything. It's like there's not really time for that. So what you want to do in this situation for me is get the highest, like have a, this is what we want to accomplish, and get everything the highest quality that you can, which sometimes it's like, I think this might have rushed. I think that you might have missed a note or whatever. And uh, so yeah, it's like I've made so many records. It's like they're all a little different. You just but at the same time, it's a little like being a plumber that's worked on 10,000 pipes. It's like after a while, it's like okay, just like what we need to do is I just need to like bang this a little more this way, and put a little more adhesive on this. Give me one of those three. pipes, and that's what's gonna. I've put this kind of joint together 5,000 times before I know how to do this, and so it's like the process to me is just listen to the music and just like try and be part of the art, you know, because like the process, the like technical process of this to me is pretty close to second nature at this point.
But that can also kind of make you take it for granted or kind of make you not phone it in, but you know what I'm getting at, that
Oh, the
it can
opposite.
be
The
hard on the
opposite.
10,000 to install that 10,000th pipe,
It's,
you know what I mean?
man, it's the opposite of that.
Okay.
Um, it is because if you're not worried about, is this the right mic pre? Is this the right compressor? It's like I already know it is because it's like somebody
Right.
that cooks or paints or something. It's like you already. It's like you're not or like thinking. You know, an Olympic skier isn't at the top of the hill or wherever they are and thinking it's like, okay, am I holding the poles right? It's like that you need to have that down. You're
Right.
just in the moment. And so like I'm just in the moment. That's it. Because
Right.
the nature of being in studios, being in a control room, especially being in this one, is like so natural to me that I'm very much in the moment because I'm not worried that I don't know how the tape machine works or something.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I
I
think it
wanted to
was
ask you, yeah.
a real joy to watch David work with tape in particular. And I know like when we talked about it even before we went down there, I just hear the excitement in his voice because I he just loves to work with tape like that old school thing. And uh just working with the tape machine, and at one point we punched drums, and that was amazing to watch David like just interacting with Bones on the kit. And like it like it's a timing thing, and he just nailed it. Like uh the general wisdom is you don't punch drums, but David was like,
Right.
well, this is tape where we either get it or we do another take. And in
And were
this
you
case,
were
we got
you were you piecing some of these together, or are they all kind of more or less complete takes?
they're yeah complete takes, except well, a few instances where
Right.
like Tony had forearms. He's playing Wurlitzer in B3.
Right.
Uh,
But you
but
weren't like,
sometimes
'cause you weren't punching together like half of take one and half of take two
no,
and that
no.
kind of thing. Okay.
Only of the double song that we edited where we recorded it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
One like
Well,
that.
that was one take. That was a full take, but Tony kept going back for the outro.
Right. It was
So yeah,
a full take. It was a full take. So yeah,
I
no,
think
there was
I
editing and
came in
stuff.
on
Yeah.
I came in on People Zoo on the outro on that. I had to do that
Right.
over, and then yeah, and the punching of the drums. But there
There's no edit
got
razor
a
blade.
handful of
Right.
things.
Okay. All right. The one song I wanted to ask you about is Witness the Death of Rock and Roll, because it really kind of feels like an outlier in terms of the rest of the album, which has a very, as you said, alive kind of. I hear a lot of Allman Brothers in all that,
Yeah, yeah.
chiefly because of the keyboards, obviously. But Witness the Death of Rock and Roll is just kind of has a different sound, has a different feel. It's got this sort of centerpiece of the album, epic kind of nature to it. Can you tell me a little bit more about where that song comes from and how you and why you wanted to put it in with the rest of this sort of catalog of songs?
Well, it's a big one for us live. Is the dynamic nature of the song, the way it starts off so quietly, builds up to that fuzz guitar solo at the end, with all the feedback. Uh, Interesting contrast with the grand piano and the feedback fuzz guitar. I really enjoy that. But I think like lyrically, it's kind of a midlife crisis in a song. It's existential. It's like, what the hell am I doing? Uh, Kind of thing. The character in the song, I mean, I'm doing just fine. It's not autobiographical, but that's a place that people get in their lives, or they're looking back at their decisions, or are currently in a place where they don't really understand what's happening, uh, feeling their mortality. There's all that kind of stuff in that song.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. So talking about working with David, Tom, was it, you obviously, as you said, you listened to the Dirty South and subsequent Drive By Truckers albums, and I'm sure some of his other work. Did it turn out to be what you expected, better than you expected? What was the expectation compared with the reality?
I'd say it exceeded expectations because we hit it off even before, like just talking on the phone. But when we got down there, it's just we were really on the same page as far as how we wanted this album to work out. And yeah, I mean, neither of us knew like if it was going to be a single album or what we're going to do with the songs, but the approach and trying to get that, well, it's the quality of tape and the quality of that process. uh, but I thought it was great with David. Like I said, we were really efficient, and I think at times he kind of paced the session by like saying, "Hey, let's take a break. Go have a coffee, hang out for a bit," just so we weren't like, "Okay, go, 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 and let's get it done," just to give us a little breathing room. And yeah, I think that helped me personally because I am the type I would be like, "Okay, let's go, just
Okay.
bang through here." Yeah.
So David, how important is that aspect of being a producer? We've talked about the technical skills and knowing how to, work the machines and all that, but how much of your job is that other sort of personality and psychology and, based stuff?
Um, Probably more than the technical side. I mean,
Right.
you can get a book or look on YouTube or something and learn how a compressor works. I mean, you got to have a good ear. You got to be musical. You got to be technical. I mean, I'm not saying I'm like a talentless lout. I mean, you got to have the skill and the talent to do the job.
David Barbe, I'm not a talentless lout. There you
Right?
go.
That's
There's
your
your
headline.
headline.
But but it's a people thing, you know. It's
Right.
like it's like you got to be able to feel the vibe and yeah, it's like it's baby bear's porridge. You got to have it just right. It's like you want to have it where you can, if it's just like this like grueling marathon, it's like that don't get the high highs. You're just checking boxes. If it is too lax, nobody gets any work done. So you just kind of have to. It's like a series of sprints in a way, where it's like you're working on some stuff and hyper focused, and then it's like, all right, cool. Let's take 10 minutes. I need to pee, respond to my wife's text, get a cup of coffee, whatever. You just need a brain just to go let go for a minute. And then I just find that as a rule, I tend to work more efficiently when it is intense periods of work followed by a little breather and then more intense periods of work rather than trying to convince yourself that it's like we are working so hard by never looking up. And it's like, and then you realize it's like it's like this shouldn't be drudgery. It should be you're making something cool.
Right. Did anything happen while you were making this that leaps out at you in terms of something unexpected or a happy accident that made it onto the tape or anything like that? Anything
Hmm.
you recall after all these months?
Well, and the punching of the drums, I remember that because I love
Right.
doing that. I love doing that because when I first started working in studios, 35 years ago or something, I was told it's like, yeah, you can punch in vocals, you can punch in bass, but you can't put, one thing you can't really do is punch in drums on an analog tape machine.
Is
And
there
so,
is there a trick to that in terms of where you do it in the beat or?
yeah, I tend
Yeah.
to, I- if I was counting, I would kind of be counting like 30-second notes in my head and trying to punch in between them. And I'm also just
Right.
like looking at the person and just like feeling the rhythm of um, just like finding the feel. And I'm almost just like playing it with them with my fingers and just like, it's hard to describe except I, you know, it's just something I've always felt. From the moment I started working in studios, I felt extremely comfortable punching in tight spots on a tape machine.
Hmm.
And mostly because it's like if somebody tells me I can't do something or something incredibly different, like, well, I'm going to be great at it.
Yeah,
That's what my,
but I think you tend to work with a lot of people who have that philosophy too, right?
I guess so. I mean, it's like, yeah, I like to be good at stuff, and so it's like I will
Mhm.
just it's like, well, I'm gonna be the person that can do this, and it
Right.
didn't take long to realize like that I um uh that it just feels kind of a comfortable thing for me, but like there were so many, I mean, it's like they were just so prepared that I mean, to me, what jumps out is like listening to them play from the beginning was it's like that was the realization that it's like, man, these guys are like they're like even better than I thought they were. It's like they were really hyper prepared to do this. They took it seriously. And so like we went from like getting set up to like recording and like it feels like a couple of hours or something. I mean, it was very fast because the organ guy had to come deliver the Hammond organ because I don't have one. And it's
And carting those things in is always a treat.
Well, it's like for these guys that do it all the time,
Yeah.
it's like watching a piano mover. It's like I have two
Yeah.
baby grand pianos here, and tomorrow I'm going to have the piano mover come and switch the location of the two pianos because I just want to hear what they sound like in the different rooms. And it's like watching a piano. Like you think about it, like if the three of us are going to move a piano, it would be like, okay, let's devote the day.
Yeah, and start the silent movie screwball music as we
Right,
screw it
exactly.
up, right? Yeah.
And then you watch like when I got the second one, my sister gave it to me when she moved out of the country, and I watched the guys like get it off. I mean, they went from like the truck backing in outside the studio to them like having it set up inside in like 10 minutes.
Hmm.
It's just like they have it down. And this organ guy in Atlanta, all he does, he's the organ guy. And he just came in and had it like rolls it. I mean, he kept thinking, I was like, do you need help? Do you need help? And it's like, no, he does this like all the
Yeah.
time. But but he loaded in, and then like we're set up in pretty short order. And the other thing is like if I know somebody wants to work in, we're gonna make a whole record in a few days. We're gonna do it on tape. I'm not setting up 20 mics on the drum so that we have all these options later on. It's like you're making this like people made records in the 70s with just like, okay, what do I can I do that I know will sound great, that is the minimal
Right.
setup so that
Back to
we
the plumber again. Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
Water needs to flow. The air conditioning needs to work. I need to capture this record. Um, not okay. I'm going to take half a day to set up twice as many microphones as we ever need because I can't make up my mind and I'm not confident in my abilities to make decisions. Opposite. It's like
Right.
trust your instincts. Listen to it. If something doesn't sound good, change that. But a lot of times it's like if you've got it's the good rule, which is an old studio thing. If you've got a good song and good performance and good instruments and good mics and good mic pre's and good board, whatever, it's like, you know what? That's a pretty good place to start. It's like put your cool material through that and it's gonna sound good.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, further to the piano thing, once many years ago at South by Southwest, I was at one of those morning conference things at like 9 a.m. and there's like
Right, right.
an, an entire theater full of hungover, jaded journalists, and they had some somebody playing some piano while people were filtering in, and two guys came in and disassembled and put this piano on a pallet and moved it out, and it was just like watching ballet. I swear to God,
Right.
when they finished everybody applauded these guys who moved the piano. So yeah, it's a skill. um so Tom, did you walk away from this experience having learned something that you can take forward in terms of making your next album or the way you think about recording?
I well, I want to record to tape, and
Okay.
we'd love to work with David again. Like
Yeah, come on back.
we were talking about that as we were finishing this record. So yeah, that also the change in location, like I said before, that's
Mhm.
something that was very important. But yeah, going back to what David said about the setup and everything, it for this band it totally lends itself to that 70s approach, like, well, recording and mixing on analog tape as well, but just we've got a retro rock, whatever it is, kind of sound, like you said,
Right.
Allman Brothers, like that kind of thing. So to record a record in that fashion it was perfect for us, and it's being received quite well for that
Yes, I mean the
reason.
album's been out for several months now, and I'm always curious about how people feel about that after the fact because when you make the thing, you're in love with it, and then it comes out, and you kind of have to let go of it, and but now that it's been out for several months, how does it sit with you? Or does it hold up the same way, or are there things now where you hear it and you go, ah, geez, I'd love to go back and change this or alter that?
No, uh it's got that raw quality to it that I love. If you listen to old records, like be it Led Zeppelin, whatever, from that era, it, there are little mistakes and things, and
Hmm.
that's sort of the charm of the analog approach too. It's
Uh-huh.
not like, let's fix it in post, let's cut this
Would you like
thing
to
up.
point out all the clams on your album for the listeners?
Well, there was one though, in one song, and folks can listen to "Distant Lover," uh, where the one of the cymbals fall down during the we kept the take, but I Bones can hear it, well, because he's the drummer. He was playing it, smashing around, and it just fell over. And we listened back. It's like, oh, that fits in perfectly. So
That's rock and roll.
yeah, there's a few little things, but that's that's what I enjoy about a record. So yeah, if we're on stage, we're holding it together, but yeah, there's the odd things, and uh, well, like David said, that's just because becomes part of the landscape of the song, the sound of the album. So
Fair
yeah,
enough.
I love it.
And I'm guessing you're already, I mean, this was obviously not your whole catalog of music. There must be a lot of other stuff that you could have done. And, is that something that you're already, again, looking forward, thinking about the next album?
I don't think I am writing quite a few songs these days. Uh, so we're gonna start working on those. And
Mhm.
I mean, we play a whole bunch of other material as
Obviously,
well,
yeah.
but I'm not in a hurry to make a record. When it's right, and when the collections of songs comes together, that I think, you know if we have like 10 or 20 songs, we'll start thinking about it. But I think I kind of go against the idea of current music industry. Let's keep pushing out singles, let's keep pushing out albums, because we have to uh, keep on the streaming and keep things going. I'm more from the artistic approach of, like we did with the controller's exam. Like the controller's exam, that record began in 2018,
Mm.
the process of putting those songs together and playing those songs live for a good couple of years, and that's why we were so prepared when we went down. And and that's why I'm happy with the record, because it sounds like we sound when we're on stage. And so we'll know when it's time. uh, and yeah, I'd be happy to go back down to Athens and do another record with David. But yeah, no hurry.
All right. Well, listen, I can just about let you guys go, but David, I have one. If you'll indulge me with one non-Tom Savage related question, but that I suspect he'll probably be interested in anyway. That reissue of Drive-By Trucker Southern Rock Opera's coming out this week. And as a guy who's loved that album since I first saw the band in 2001 when they were just about to put it out and playing songs from their then upcoming album. Can you talk to me about remixing it and how it compares to the original version in terms of, the what you've done to it and how it's improved or changed.
It's like we loved the original mixes. Patterson and I talked about this before we did it, that like we loved the original version of the record. It's like we did it, a long time ago, and they were, completely, the indie, self
Yeah.
financed, and got other people like pitched in for them to put this thing out because people just believed in it. And we've always liked it, but we were just going to get it remastered. But we talked about it that, yeah, it would be fun to remix it because now, the original came. So you saw him in 2001. Where'd you see him play?
At a crappy little Sixth Street bar in Austin for South by Southwest.
And so the original comes out in 2001. Oh, right.
Yeah, it
9/11.
was that fall, I think, that it came
Yeah.
out, or that
Yeah, it
summer-ish.
came
Yeah.
out in September 11th. It's
Oh,
like a pretty
wow. Okay.
star-crossed day for a band to release their big ta-da moment. Uh, but so when we anyway, but like now, 24 years after I mixed it the first time, 23, 24 years whenever we did the first one, I mean, I've got all the reels here. I mean, I've got all the files here. I know what days I worked on it. But anyway, the point being, I know those songs now, like I know Tumbling Dice, or What Is and What Should Never Be, or I Am a Walrus, or Fourth Time Around, or Lookout Joe, like, London Calling or something. It's like I've listened to them and they play them live. It's like, and so there's all these little things that it's like, oh, I love this lick here. Oh, I love it. It's like you just know it so well now. And so their manager, Kevin Morris, actually said, do you want to remix it? Because I'd also thought that it's like nobody's going to want to pay to have this thing remixed because everybody loves it the way it is. And it's like, does it need to be remixed? Because there are some old records, like Replacements 10 was just redone. I think
Right.
it's fantastic. It's like
Yes.
my favorite
So,
Replacements album of all time is Stink, because I love the
mhm.
way it sounds and I love the songs, the immediacy of it. And when Tim came out, and I loved the record, and I was a huge Replacements fan at the time. I was 21, I think, when that record came out. It was like it seemed a little slick. So the remix of it to me is like, oh, it's great. These
It's a
songs are good.
revelation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. So, but Southern Rock Opera, like I'd figured out my aesthetic pretty well by then of, do no harm, like don't over process raw rock and roll. Um, but at the same time, I'm 23 years better at the job. I know the songs inside and out. Um, I've got this, now have this, 70s Neve console to mix through, which just makes everything sound just huge when it comes out of it. And their manager, Kevin Morris, had said, he's like, do you want to remix it? I was like, it'd be fun to do it. I mean, we do like the way the original sounds. You could remaster it. And he said, well, might be cool for the fans. And I was like, man, if you guys want to do it and you think that the label wants to like pony up to pay for the work to be done, it's like, let's do it. So, it was um it was cool because there's a little forensics work of remembering, like, oh yeah, this is the take. So first off, there's like
Mm.
about 8 or 10 hours of recordings of those songs. So I had to go through and listen and find out which is the right take of Ronnie and Neil, which is the right take of Women Without Whiskey. And usually you could tell because there's like a keeper vocal track as opposed to the scratch vocal track. And a couple of times it'd be like two versions that look like they've been worked on. And then what I would do is get the original CD out and import that into the Pro Tools file, and then reverse the polarity on one of the two mixes and just see what would make sound disappear. And it's like, okay, this is clearly the right one. So
Yeah.
that was interesting. And then just what I would do is just create a mix without listening to the original at all. Just pull it up and just go off my instincts with the songs, and then compare it to the original, and just make sure, is there any, I'm not do that, like, is what I'm doing in keeping with the spirit of the original, but somehow brings it more to life, and that kind of became the standard of it. I found some unreleased songs, including some the band had forgotten about. There's a couple that are being there's a couple that are being released as like a bonus disc with this. They're really good. One of them, like, that's just called Mystery Song on there, because I sent it to Patterson. I was like, "Hey, what's this?" He's like, "Where'd you get that?" I was like, "You recorded it when you recorded Southern Rock Opera," because they recorded it themselves in this building that Cooley's stepmother, or not stepmother, mother-in-law owned in Birmingham. And then I just mixed it, and it was and then there was one that's not being released, which is a Cooley song, an original called Three on a Tree. And he's just like, "I'm not into that." And so it's like, that one is just like, it lives in here. Like, I've got mixes of it. But like, just listening to them like work through songs, listening to them like talk to each other, listening to them get pissed off about things was cool. It was fun. And I really, really, really got into it. I mean, excuse me, this is maybe no, this has got to be garbage call. Sorry, I have adult children, and my daughter is, I'm, I'm meeting the house cleaners at her house. She moved to Atlanta and is renting her house out to some other musicians, actually. And I'm waiting for the
Yeah,
housekeeper to call me so I can go lock the door, but that's not her yet. So anyway,
gotcha.
I digress. Um, it's uh, it's just kind of, I mean, I basically described the remix as like a better version of what it was originally. It's like I didn't want to change it to some new thing because we loved what we had before. But the combination of like knowing the songs and me just being, more experienced at the job, and it's just like more of what it already was, which is the best way to describe it. It has, like, sonically, if you put if you put Tom's record on and the new Southern Rock Opera on, they probably, because they're mixed with the same board and everything, would probably have some
Right.
similarities in there. So yeah, I'm really, really proud of it. I'm really happy with it. I love that I got to do it. Um it's because it's like remixing, it's like you don't want to mess up something that people already love. But if you can do something that just like the redone Exile on Main Street in 2010 was a
Mhm.
fucking revelation, because it's like, my whole career is built on having like worn out the other one from the time I first heard it, until like,
Sure.
I mean, when is the last time I listened to a song off Exile on Main Street? I think I listened to Soul Survivor about a week ago because I could not get it out of my head. And but the point is, it's like when I heard that 2010 thing, and it's like, oh fuck, it's like you can hear all this stuff now, and it wasn't
Right.
like cheapened or extra reverb or too bright or like weirdly like modern compressed sounding or fixed or something. It was just like kind of a little better of the original thing. And to me, it's like that's like the biggest thing. And it's like the mastering engineer that we always work with the truckers, and who I've worked with repeatedly on projects since the late 80s, is Greg Calby at Sterling Sound in New York, who is, I mean, if he's not the greatest mastering engineer in the history of mastering records, he's one of about five candidates. I mean, it's interesting that like that Greg, Bob Ludwig, and George Marino, like all these legendary New York guys, all came out of working at Masterdisc in the early 70s, and then they all go on to start their own thing and are just like these legendary guys. But Greg, one time, Patterson and Jay Gonzalez and Greg and I were at dinner, and we were talking about uh, Greg was telling us about his grandfather immigrating to the U.S. in like 1912 from Italy, and he was a tailor. And he said, "Yeah, that's kind of what I am because you guys make the records. It's like to the that somebody makes the fabric, makes the tailor just makes it all fit a little better. And that's kind of what that's kind of my job. I just make it all fit a little better. And I think about that, like Greg's light touch of how you get a master back from him, and it's like it sounds just like a better version of what I sent him. I can't even explain how what his light touch has done. And that's kind of was my approach to remixing that record is how can I make this a better version of what we had? Because we didn't really have any regrets. Or sometimes you listen to something you did a long time ago and are just like, whew, yeah,
Right.
and learn my lesson. But in that case, it's like we liked it. We just wanted to do a better version. So yeah.
All right. Well, I am seriously looking forward to hearing it this weekend. It's pretty much top of my list.
All right. Well, I look forward to hearing it. Send me an email. I want to hear what you think about this thing because
All
I'd
right.
love it. I think it's great. And it's yeah, listening to them play from back then, and the band, everybody loved it. It's like that's the other thing. It's like there wasn't any like, can you make it a little more like this, or maybe this one's not so much. I mean, Patterson and Cooley and Brad, all of them on the mixes are all just like great. Well, it's like, all right, good. I like making people happy, so beats the opposite.
Well, you made them happy. You made Tom Savage happy, obviously. And I look
Look
forward
forward to
to your next collaborative effort because honestly, Savage Barbe is a band that should just exist somewhere in the world,
yes,
isn't it?
thank you. Never thought about that. I like it.
All
I'm
right,
down.
guys. Well, listen, thanks for your time today. Tom, thanks for Dead Root Revival and the Controller's Exam. David, thanks for too many. I could spend the next half hour, listing all the albums that you've made that I love. But enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll hopefully talk to you guys again somewhere down the line.
Enjoyed it. See you.
Thank
See you.
All
you.
right.
Tom.
See you,
Bye.
David.